Okay, here we are with the blood vessels. Okay, so let's take a look. That's the back of your leg. Alrighty, and as it turns out, with this being the tibia and this being the fibula, which leg is it? Well, it's the left leg, seen from behind, posterior. Okay? All right. Now, all of this yellow is nerves, and that happens to be your big old sciatic nerve. All right? What we want to deal with is blood vessels. So up here, femoral artery and vein, because it's the back of the femur. But in the back of the knee, it's popliteal artery and vein. And what I want to concentrate on are these four little blood vessels. They come from the back and spin around to the front of your knee. Alrighty? Now, they're called genicular arteries. Now, you might say, okay, how am I going to remember that? Well, if you were going to visit the king or the queen or the pope, you get down on one knee. Got it? Well, guess what that's called? Genuflect. You flex your genu. You flex your knee. Got it? So that's why these are knee. And of course, we have two that are high, superior, and two that are low, inferior. All right? And if this is the left leg facing this way, then this side is lateral and this side is medial. And that's how we're going to name them. All right? So, this is your left leg. It's superior. It's lateral, genicular artery, etc., etc. Got it? So, just take a look at that until it makes sense to you while you're looking at your lab pictures. Okay, and now, as we're going down, this is called the posterior tibial artery. And again, it's the same artery all the way down. Why do we give it different names? Just like other tubes in your body, it's the same tube, but they give it different names for surgical reasons. Am I doing surgery in the femoral part, the popliteal part, or in the tibial part? You kind of think of it this way. The same blood vessel coming off of your aorta goes under your subclavian, and we call that the subclavian artery. Then it goes here, we call that the axillary. Then it goes here, we call it the brachial. Then it goes over here, we call it the radial. Same blood vessel, just given different names for the locations. Cool beans? Now, if there's a blood vessel going to the back of your tibia, there's got to be one that goes to the front. And there it is. This one branches off and goes to the front of your tibia. All good? All right. Now, let's take a look. We're going to open up the abdominal cavity. All right? And of course, what do we see here? The diaphragm. And we see 1, 2, 3 tubes coming through. Well, this is the inferior vena cava on its way up to the heart. This is the abdominal aorta, which came down from the heart into the abdomen. Behind the heart, until we get to here, it's called the descending aorta. As soon as it cuts through the diaphragm, it's called the abdominal. And what is this other tube that goes from your mouth to your stomach? The esophagus. Yeah, how about that? Okay, those are 3 tubes that make it through your diaphragm. Okay, your liver would be here. There's your spleen. And we're going to learn in chapter 20 this week that the spleen is the graveyard for the red blood cells. That's why it's important to know. Here are your 2 kidneys, obviously. All right, now, please pay attention. This is a hole where a peg goes, so it's not an actual structure. But this is a tube sticking out. Here's a tube sticking out, and here's a tube sticking out. 1, 2, 3 in the circles. This first one is called the celiac trunk. Now, whenever you see the word trunk when it comes to blood vessels, it means there's going to be branches coming off. Got it? And the trunk and the branches don't have the same name. All right? This is the superior mesenteric artery going to the mesenteries, the connective tissue that goes to your intestines. And this is the inferior mesenteric artery. right? Cool. G, these go to my kidneys, so renal artery and vein on the left side and on the right side. Okay? And see these little tubes here? These are the gonadal arteries and veins, left side and right side. They're on their way down to the gonads. Okay? All right, now the other big one to keep in mind is that we're going to split, okay? And we're going to call these, the left and right, common iliac artery, red, vein, blue, okay? So when I point to this on my test and I say, what's the red vessel? I'm going to give you 0 points if you say common iliac artery and vein. No, the artery is the red one, the blue one is the vein. Don't just copy this because you got a copy of it somewhere in your hands. Okay? You got to catch it. Notice, it is only common until we split. Got it? And the word common means together in science. Now, have you ever heard of something called a common law marriage? Yeah, that means the guy and the girl have been shacked up long enough, even though there's no wedding, there's no license, in the eyes of the law, they are married. Got it? A common law wedding. 10-4? So it's common until it splits. And notice, the outside one is called the what? External iliac artery. And the one on the inside is going to be called the, what do you think? Internal iliac artery. And the same thing happens for the veins. External going out to the leg, internal going backwards in towards the sacrum. Alrighty? But why don't we call this trunk? Because this is called iliac, this one's called iliac, and this one's called iliac. They all got the same name. So it's common and then internal, external. Got it? Not the same thing as trunk. And there's going to be another model coming up. This trunk branches into a splenic artery, a hepatic artery, and one for your stomach, a gastric artery. See how those three don't have the same name? And that's why that's called a trunk. All right, this here is your sacral artery going to the sacrum. And yeah, external and internal. But you can see the blue one right here, right? So if the internal is right here, that means the internal is right here, so all of this is external. Now I'm not going to be mean and put an arrow right here and say, what's that? It'll be way up here for the common. It'll be right here where you can see an internal, and it'll be somewhere along the bottom area there for the external, okay? Which is going to go past your abdominal cavity and become the femoral artery once it's in the femur. But again, same blood vessel, just giving it different names, okay? All right, does that cover everything? I think it does. All right, see, here's another model, and we can see that the celiac trunk has various branches. This branch going up like a candy cane is the left gastric artery. This branch going to the spleen is the splenic artery, and this branch going to the liver is the hepatic artery. Make sense? Okay. So that's my first one coming at you. Here's my second one, superior. And here's my third one. They got it going off to the side, but that's your inferior mesenteric. All right? Gonadal arteries. Don't see any gonadal veins on this particular model, but there you go. But I think you can see your internal and externals very nicely here. See? Common, just that little piece right there. Then internal, external, iliac artery, red, vein, blue. Internal, external, got it? On the right side, on the left side. Does that make sense? Now, why the left and the right? Why is Mr. Weber pushing that? Now remember, this is all matching. So I'm going to have the wrong answer and the right answer for you to choose from. Why? The nursing instructors asked us in A and P, please make sure they can tell left and right by the time those kids get to nursing school. We don't want them, chopping off, the wrong part of the body, So there's enough of that going on in hospitals as it is, alrighty? So everybody knows their own left and right. You have to start learning the patient's left and right. This is my right side. This is my left side, because I'm the patient facing you. And so to me, the fastest way to make sure you guys know your left and right is to have you know left and right on blood vessels that have a left and a right. In fact, my lab practical will say that in the description. Make sure you understand that left and right is important, okay, for blood vessels. Now, is there a left and right aorta? No. Is there a left and right sacral artery? No. But there is left and right gonadal arteries, left and right iliac arteries. Fair enough? There isn't a left and a right splenic and hepatic. You only got one liver and only one spleen. 10-4. Now, the left gastric, there is a right gastric, which you can't see on this model, but it spins around to the right side of the stomach, and it spins around to the left side. So yes, this curly key here is the left gastric artery. Okay? Now, what about all this that looks kind of purplish? See how it's a different color than the aorta, than the vena cava? That's because all of this is part of the hepatic portal system. Now, the hepatic portal system, that's why they always make it purple on the plastic models. The hepatic portal system is a venous system that takes blood from your intestines and your stomach and everything else, and then sends it straight to the liver, because the liver needs to what? Detoxify anything you've eaten. Then your liver puts that blood into the inferior vena cava to go to the heart. We don't want to put poisons directly into your heart for it to pump it to the rest of your body. That's why if you're taking a poison, the first thing to die is your liver. You eat a poisonous mushroom, your liver dies. Okay? You take too much acetaminophen, your liver dies. In fact, I don't know if I say this in my regular studies or not, but the number one cause for childhood liver transplants is too much Tylenol. It kills their liver. Okay? But aspirin might give them Rye syndrome. That's why they want you to give Tylenol to your youngsters. However, you got to be careful that you don't double and triple dose them, because everything's got Tylenol in it. You got to be careful. Cool beans? And again, these are your kidneys, so obviously renal artery and vein, this time on the left side, or on the right side, sorry. On the right side. Okay? All right. We good? So, different model, same concepts. Okay, that came from this model. So here's a close-up of the top part. All right, so that's how your test is going to look, like this. See, here is your superior vena cava. Now, please note, right here and right here, just this little piece right here and this little bit longer piece here, both of these are brachiocephalic because they haven't split yet into the jugular, going to your cephalic, and the subclavian going to your brachial. Same thing, just this little piece right here. Then it splits. Okay? Now remember, on your aorta, only the first one needs to branch. That's why it's called the brachiocephalic. Alright? Over here, it's already split. Remember? That's why it's 1, 2, 3. They're not clear veins. And because of that, we need to know that there is a left and right brachiocephalic vein, but only one brachiocephalic artery. There is no left and right. Okay? All right. Let's go up here. The jugular vein goes up. Actually, it comes down from your head. Your jugular goes up. All right. In your face is the facial artery, and the blue one is the vein. On the side of your head, the temporal artery, and the blue one is the vein. And in the back of your head, the occipital artery is the red one, and the blue one is the vein. All right? And, to be specific, what side of this guy's head are we talking about?
Left.
Yeah. Okay, so be careful. All right. Now, let's look at the arm. You see, we start going down here, subclavian, artery and vein. Then 4, when it gets down in here, axillary, artery and vein. Then it comes down here, brachial. Now this is the brachial artery, red, and they've cut the brachial vein. Otherwise it would follow the brachial artery. Then 4. But I want you to see these two. There are no arteries that correspond to this. When we get to chapter 20 in your studies, 2/3 of your blood is in your veins, only 1/3 is in your arteries. So we have to have, not only do the veins have to be bigger, we have to have more of them. Okay? All right. And what do we have here? We call this one the cephalic vein, I guess because it's kind of coming from the head of the humerus. And we call this one the what? The basilic vein. All right? And of course, know your heart parts. So if I said, what's this chamber? What's this valve? You should be able to tell it apart. And remember, that's that same one from earlier where you have your little candy cane, gastric artery, celiac trunk. Okay. And there you go. See? We know that. That's what it says. Know your abdominal vessels. We just did that earlier. But I did this picture because I want you to see the cephalic vein and the basilic vein. They come down here, and the vein that crosses over is called the what? Median cubital vein. It's in the middle of your elbow. And that's the one you usually palpate and puncture when you're drawing blood. Okay? Now, of course, look at the arteries. If it's on the pinky side, it's the ulnar artery. If it's on the thumb side, it's the radial artery. And if it's in the middle, it's called the, what do you think? Medial artery. The one in the middle. All right. And there's your common, internal, external. And notice, once it goes past your abdominal cavity, that external now becomes the femoral artery. All right? And see, here's your femoral artery and your femoral vein. It's been cut. The femoral vein's been cut, femoral artery. So they can show you these other ones, which we don't have to worry about naming, but there they are again, femoral artery and vein. But look, a whole new vein that we don't have a corresponding artery for, and that's called the great saphenous vein that runs down the inside of your leg. Alrighty? We have an arch in our palm, and we have an arch on the back of the hand. Now, why is this arch on the back of your hand called deep when I can see it? You'd think that'd be called superficial. Because this is anatomical position. You see this before you see this. Got it? That's why that's the superficial venous arch or arterial arch, if it's the blue one or the red one. And I'll tell you, what's the blue one called? What's the red one called? Got it? Venous arch, arterial arch. And this is only arch for your arm. So that's your arterial arch, but this is the deep one. Okay? Cool beans? All right. One of the things I want to make sure that you learn when you're looking at these kind of things is that these are not named to confuse you, but they're actually named to help you understand where it's located. Okay? Now we're going to look at the same model, but from the leg part. Great saphenous vein, see? Down the inside of the leg. The femoral artery in the back becomes the popliteal artery, becomes the posterior tibial artery, and this little branch spins around to the front, which becomes the anterior tibial artery. Okay? And the artery on top of your foot is called the dorsalis pedis. Makes sense? And you have I don't know why this happened, but see? Don't you have an arch in your foot too? Yeah. So, arcuate, artery, and vein. Okay? It makes an arch. It's blue, vein, artery, okay? And, oh, there you go. That's much better. And what do I call the artery on the bottom of your foot? Plantar. The top is dorsalis pedis, top of the foot. And this is the bottom of the foot. Okay? Not the back of the foot. Because the back of the foot, which usually what dorsal means is the back, that's your calcaneus. You don't have the blood vessel back here. However, Where is the dorsal fin on a fish? On its back. Or if it's like this, on its top. That's why that's called the dorsalis pedis. Okay? And why is this important? Because if there's something, they're afraid that there's a blood clot or whatever in the femoral artery, you can feel if there's a pulse down here. If there's no pulse, that means the blood isn't making it down. If you can feel a pulse, then blood's making it down. Therefore, that's why it's important to learn to palpate that one. Alrighty, skull. Don't freak out. What side of this guy's face are the blood vessels?
Left.
Again, the left. Because the right side are all nerves, and this is not a nerve test. This is a blood vessel test. Let's talk about the specialized ones. You've got your common carotids going up the outside of your neck. But on the inside, right next to the vertebra, where we have those
Think
little...
you found your flash drive?
No, I must have left it at home somewhere.
Okay.
Because the only time I ever would have used it is in here on a Tuesday night.
Yeah.
And I don't see it laying here or laying...
Yeah, I looked around and I didn't see it laying around either.
Right.
And I looked over in there, but I know you don't ever use that room, so
Yeah.
I don't know.
And I wasn't
unless
in the
you left it
210.
down at 112 or something, you know, but
Yeah, I looked down
didn't see
there.
anything in 210.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean,
Thank
Orlando's
you.
in 210. I don't know if he would have seen it. I'm sure
Yeah.
he would have.
Yeah, haven't been in 210, so
Yeah.
I don't have a 210 class. Okay.
Yeah. So
All right.
I don't know. Sorry.
No problem.
You'll have to look it up.
So, what are we going to call these? Vertebral arteries. Okay? Because these are those little holes here, the transforamina. Got it? Okay. Now, here is a branch going into your face. So I don't care where it is, it's still called the facial artery. Here is one inside your eye socket, ophthalmic artery. Here is one going to the side of your head, temporal. Got it? On the back, occipital. Now please notice, external and internal. That's because some of the vessels are on the surface, on your skull, and others go into your skull through the holes, the foramina, to feed your brain. Okay? That's much better to see here. Now, please note, actually go straight up. Somebody bent the crap out of this thing so it wouldn't bend back down. But it comes up as a common, which means it's going to branch into an internal and an external with the same name. Got it? So, that's it. Carotid artery. The internal one goes in here and feeds your brain. The external one goes to the outside and feeds your skull. Then for internal and external. There's your vertebrals again. All right? And of course, if it's in the back of your head, occipital, side of your head, temporal. And I'm not going to be mean as it, name this one right there, name this one. No. It'll be just a main one in the back and a main one on the side. Okay? I know students are always asking, which one did I point at? All right, here's just another view from the side. Facial, ophthalmic, temporal, occipital, common, external, internal, vertebral. All right? Left, left, left. This is the left side of the guy's head. Now comes the hard one, the one on the inside of the skull. So all of these are internal, got it? It starts here, where your carotids come in. And the carotids come in here, so these are your internal carotid arteries. And now we're facing this way, because that's the front of the skull, that's the back of the skull. So what side is this? Same as yours, left. What side is this? Same as yours, the right. Okay? Because this is facing this way. How do we know this? Because those are the two olfactory nerves, and your nose is in the front. Got it? Okay. So let's take a look at some of the easier ones. Do you see a blood vessel on the outside of the skull and one on the inside? Okay, well this is the temporal side of your head, so external and internal temporal. Got it? You see outside and inside of your skull? External and internal occipital. Alrighty? Now let's take a look at this bad boy. And it's based on this model that I downloaded from the internet. Alrighty? This whole thing is called the Circle of Willis. Got it? It makes a circle. Alrighty? And what do we have? We have these two go to the front of your brain, anterior to your brain, cerebral arteries. These two go to the sides, middle cerebral arteries, and these two branch off to the back of your brain, posterior cerebral arteries. Got it? Okay. Now, to make it a circle, these two have to have a connection. Okay? To make it a circle, these have to have a connection with those, and that's this. Now, what do we call these connections? Communicating arteries. Communicators. So this one branching across the front is the anterior communicating, and these two on the side and the back are the posteriors. Got it? These are going forward, these are going to the side, and these are going back. All right? Now this is more detailed than I've got. All right? So, we're going to call these little guys here cerebellar because they're going to go to the cerebellum in the back of your brain. This middle part here is called the, where is it? It's called the basilar artery. Do I have that? Okay. Add that. The basilar artery. And here's my caveat, my warning. Don't mix up basilar artery with basilic vein in your arm. Okay? They sound a lot alike, but they're not. And from this basilar artery, look, you branch your two vertebral arteries, which go down the sides of your vertebrae. Okay? Bingo. Done.